Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be presumably finishing up integrating push notifications. This is part 5, and I'll leave links to parts 1 through 4 in the description. As far as the plan goes, it should be pretty simple. Should be. All I was lacking from my last video was implementing a listener into ServiceWorker. So I found some documentation on that. And based on the documentation, I'm going to be coding that in and then a quick retest, presumably fixing it, and then I'll just go over some things that from a developmental perspective that I haven't handled in this video series and that I will be handling before I go into production. So let's begin. Implement listener into ServiceWorker. So the first thing we need to do is grab my ServiceWorker file. This is going to be in my front web project. I suspect okay. So there's my ServiceWorker file. Now, what is going in it? Well, according to according to Google Developers website, and I'll leave a link also to this in the description. What I'm missing roughly is an event listener that's listening for an event called push. Now, we're going to, I'll just read through, let's see, where do I want to start with this? Yeah, he's right about that. Okay. I'll just really quickly read through the push event here, this section. When a message is received, it'll result in a push event being dispatched into your ServiceWorker. The code for setting up a push event listener should be pretty similar to any other event listener you'd write in JavaScript, and that's true. This is the first iteration he uses. I'm actually kind of curious to just use this iteration just to get started. So there we go. It doesn't like event data, of course. I'll just do this for now. I'm not sure what the typing would be for an event such as that, and I tend to believe that TypeScript should be I don't think everything should be typed. It's just it's cumbersome. There's great things that should be typed, like services, that kind of stuff. But I'm not thinking that this needs to be typed. Okay, so we've added the event listener, and so what this should do now is when I trigger the event remotely through curl. Let me rephrase that. I'm going to curl a route that I've set up. It's called push notify, and that is going to cause that is going to cause a push notification to occur in the browser. It looks like for now, based on the code we copied over, that is just going to be a console log, which is just fine for now, if anticlimactic, but oh well. Okay, so we're going to rebuild this code. Oh, I think I need this. Okay, rebuilding my front-end code involves issuing a Typescript rebuild command that will cause Parcel to rebuild the dev site, and then at which point I will need to reload this code here in the browser, and you see it's asking me if I want to show notifications. I'm going to go ahead and allow this just to make sure nothing has changed. Okay, that looks good. Right, so it saved the subscription notification data to the server, and so now I only lack, presumably, issuing this curl request. Okay, and you see I got back a 201. So let's check my console in my browser and see if I got any goodness. Okay, it looks like right now I've got this message here. I'm not sure where this is from. Oh, that is, I'm sorry, that's the data that was sent back from the server. That worked. And you see here, this push event has data. This push event has data. Okay, great. So that worked. All right, so first, that's awesome. So that means that now events can be triggered completely outside of the app browser context, and they're getting pushed through properly. That is a big step. I will spend a little bit of time here going through the rest of this, just getting it to where the notification is actually being displayed beyond the console.log. There is another section on styling, which might be kind of interesting later. I'm not super certain that that's important as far as the minimum viable product goes. That's something I will think about, and perhaps later I'll do a part 6. But as of right now, I'm not considering that part of my minimum viable product. So let's continue reading about this push listener. The weirdest bit of this code to most developers who are new to service workers is the self variable, and that's true. That hung me up. I think it was in part 1 or 2. I can't remember, but yeah, I got waylaid by that for a minute. Self is commonly used in web workers, which a service worker is. Self refers to the global scope, kind of like window in a web page. Okay, so self is a service worker reference. Okay, I get it. But for web workers and service workers, self refers to the worker itself. Okay, great. In this example above, self.addEventListener can be thought of as adding an event to the listener to the service worker itself. Okay, makes sense. Inside the push event example, we check if there's any data and print something to the console. There are other ways you can parse the data from the push event. Okay. So they're listed here: text, JSON, blob, array, buffer. Most people use JSON or text depending on what they're expecting from their application. This example demonstrates how to add a push event listener and how to access data, but it's missing 2 very important pieces of functionality. It's not showing notification, and it's not making use of the event WaitUntil. Okay, next question, of course, he answers it. WaitUntil. One of the things to understand about service workers is that you have little control over when the service worker code is going to run. The browser decides when to wake up and when to terminate it. The only way you can tell the browser, hey, I'm super busy doing important stuff, is to pass a promise to the event WaitUntil method. With this, the browser will keep the service worker running until the promise you passed in has settled. I've never seen this term settled before, but I think I like it. It seems to be a term that fills a gap, perhaps, in my language around talking about this kind of stuff, so I will try to use that, for lack of a better one. With push events, there is an additional requirement that you must display a notification before the promise you passed has settled in, or passed in has settled. Here's a basic example of showing a notification. And there we go. Okay, so this is what we are going to be updating, sort of. We're going to take this piece of code here, and we are going to take a little bit of this piece and a little bit of that piece. I want this event text here. Don't need the rest of it. What I'm hoping I can do is this. Even though he's not doing that, and there might be a reason for that, I guess that's what we were about to find out. So let's go ahead and rebuild the Typescript and trigger the parcel dev rebuild. Right, of course. I think maybe if I type self as a service worker, that might fix this. And I have forgotten how to type an existing variable for now, so I'm just going to ignore this for the time being. Not super important to the overall getting stuff done situation in front of us. Okay. It is satisfied now, so we'll go back, reload our app here. I'm going to assume that I don't need to toggle my notification permissions, and we're just going to go right back to a curling. It looks like it's still running my old code, meaning that I probably need to clear the cache. Alright, let's do a hard reload again. Okay, let's try to trigger this again. Still nothing. Well, it's not nothing, it's still picking up this old. Make sure that it's totally gone. It is totally gone. Let's do this sometimes for whatever reason. For whatever reason, parcel won't rebuild properly. Okay. Let's delete our cache again. Okay, hard reload. The next thing I'll try is to toggle notifications, just in case. Alright, but let's go ahead and curl again. Oh, look, there it is. It worked. It worked again. That's great. Look at that. Okay, so there you go. From beginning to end, push notifications from nothing to something, not using Firebase or any other BS. No frameworks. I am using Google Workbox. Not a framework though. Okay, so great. So that is the overall flow. We are done. Let's talk real quick about the things that I did not cover. That would be important in terms, as far as, this is what I think would be important going into production. I say 4, but I guess it's 5. Okay. There is little or no error handling going on. Of course, that's going to be super important, and I should probably also say logging, sensible logs, which there's plenty of information and debate about. Anyhow, number 2, subscription data will be saved to user info in the database. So what I'm saying here is that I'm using these push notifications to update order status. And so before I go into production, I'm going to make sure that those routes, the route that allows for subscription is going to be behind ACL, access control list. So you'll have to be logged in, you'll have to have proper roles in order to even be able to hit that route, which is what I'm saying here, restrict routes. Some basic unit test, the more time and the more capital you have, certainly the more unit tests you can write. I'm not in that position. I'm going to write some basic unit tests to say, hey, this, I see this works, and probably as I run into problems or make changes, I will update my unit test then to make sure I'm not breaking anything. So I'm going to kind of add as I go, just have basic functionality checks for now. Let's see, make sure I'm leveraging all or part of notification content needed, headers, tags, etc., images. Yeah, so as I mentioned, this kind of goes into what I mentioned earlier in this video, things I won't be covering maybe until part 6, which I don't have any plan on doing right now. I'll get into styling and added value around push notifications. But for now, we have accomplished our goal. Thank you very much for joining me in this. And we'll have something else upcoming. If you have any ideas around what you'd like to see or any improvements that don't require a lot of time, I'm not going to get into editing these, but any improvements that you can think of, I'm certainly listening. So again, thank you very much for joining me.